me grow up in a neighborhood with boys, so this seems like old hat.
He was preparing you for right now.
Yeah.
For a time such as this.
So who are we talking to? Who you want me to talk to, Mark/Aristida/ or just pick somebody out and you'll spotlight them?
No, Michelle, Tim, and Mike are all spotlighted right now.
Perfect.
Did you kill Nick? Where'd Nick go?
Well, don't
Nick,
kill Nick. He's too good a guy.
Nick killed himself.
Yeah,
Oh, he
bring
killed his
Nick
video.
back.
Okay.
Nick has the best stories.
Nick is the other adult in the room. Get him on too.
Looks like he's getting a coffee or something.
Traveling.
All right. You're live.
We are live. Let's go.
All right. So, hey, gang, welcome to MPI today. We got an awesome show with Mark Drake and Scott Fletcher a little bit later on, but we're just going to do a little chit chatting around beforehand to talk about common challenges people run across. Okay. So I'm going to start out asking Michelle. Michelle, how do you calm worried clients when they call you or they come in to see you and they're worried about the economy, the market, their account, whatever the case may be?
So right now I'm finding that the most worried people are, in my case, people withdrawing or people who haven't been with me a long time. So I'm just pulling up like each of their fund positions and showing them what's been happening. So if we're withdrawing, where are we withdrawing from? And did they actually really have a net gain or a net loss? And just revisiting capital gains and dividends and the purpose of the account and taking them back to purpose.
Okay, awesome. So just back to fundamentals and hey, what was the objective? Awesome. Hey, Tim, same question. How are you handling this for people right now? Because newer people that aren't as seasoned as you superstars, you know, they're kind of like, when people are calling them. So how do we help our reps?
Okay. And first of all, I'm trying out a new computer here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. You know, I just a little bit what Michelle does. I pull out their statements, have a little talk with them, you know, show their positions. You know, not necessarily just today, but what has the history been? Has this happened before? Yep. Has it recovered? Yes. You think it's going to recover again? Yes. You know, they just answer it themselves, and it's no different in life. You know, not every day of our year goes good. So you have ups and downs. Will you recover? Yeah. And so that's kind of what I do. It's like going to an amusement park. You know, you have ups and downs on the roller coaster, and you just got to sit back and enjoy the life, enjoy the ride, you know, and just hold on once in a while. So that sums it up in 30 seconds here. So.
Okay, awesome. So awesome. So both of you, a similar concept, just talk to them, remind them what was the objective, what are we doing? They need to know. I think the clients need to know that you are aware of what's happening and you're okay with it. And if you're okay with it, that has helped them feel okay with it.
Kurt, if I quite often just go back to their goals and ask them what their goals are. And if their goals haven't changed, that's probably 1.2, is checking out their goals. So
awesome. Fantastic. Hey, Mike, same question. How do you calm clients down on the worried market?
Well, one thing is myself being calm and not freaking out, but find out more what's bothering them first. Ask them a few questions on that, and then kind of what Michelle and Tim talked about. Go back to has anything changed? Everything, you know, look back at what's happened in the past, where they are today. Do they need anything different? And basically just reassure them, and if they do leave a message, get back to them right away. Make sure that you're there for them. And once they see that you're calm and that you still believe in what you recommended and it's still good for them, then that pretty much takes care of that. They really just want to hear your voice.
Super sound advice. Awesome. Nick, let's ask you the same question, sir.
So myself, I use a few different analogies when I'm helping them set up the accounts and discussing investments. And then I just use those same analogies every time I talk to them, whether the market's up or down. And I do the same thing again when it's down, the same thing again when it's up. every time I have a conversation, it ends up being very similar analogies. And then I just try to get more creative with new ones. A recent one that's been pretty popular is the trampoline, right? So if you think of a trampoline, if you want the highest jump, what do you have to do first? You got to push the trampoline down further. Stocks work the same way. Stocks that have the ability to have the highest jump also have the ability to have the lowest lows. And so if you're in that type of portfolio, you can't complain about it because you only get the highest up if you're willing to take the lowest low. And I think that, you know, you take a different portfolio that you don't need as much of a jump because you already have enough money, you're ready to retire. You're also probably not going to be in a portfolio that's going to push down and spar. The only difference is the trampoline's this way, it's not flat. So you're bouncing higher and higher for the rest of your life. And so just using that over and over again with, it makes it easy because you think of 10 or 15 analogies, you just do the same ones over every time you talk to someone and it just brings them back. So I told you when I set up your account, so I'm telling you halfway through the process, what I tell you at the end, we just keep going with the same stuff. I never have to make up anything, hide. It's all the same stuff over and over again. It makes it a lot easier.
Excellent. So anybody that's listening, you just listen to 4 people that really know what they're doing, give you sound advice on common people. One other quick question, and then we're going to get into the show, right? How do you stay upbeat when the market's down? Okay. How do you do that, Michelle?
Well, I guess I'm supposed to say I'm a girl and I like to shop, which I don't, but I do like to shop for this stuff. So when the price is low, I like to buy more. So again, just bringing people back to fundamentals. When I have their appointment, if they call me, I'm like, I can't wait to see you. I'm so excited. So I just tell them I'm excited and I'm hopefully going to change their mind.
Perfect. Perfect. Tim. You're on mute, bud. There you go.
Yep, there we go. So, you know, I kind of look at it a little bit like the weather. So I live in Minnesota. You know, the weather gets a little long here, the winter. And I have to remind myself that when it's 5 below, 10 below, kind of like the markets when they're down 5–10%, that this will all come to an end. And we're going to have springtime here sometime in the future. So that's kind of how I look at it. This will all come to, you know, there's better days to come. So that's
Okay.
That's what I do.
Excellent. Hey, before we jump to Mike, both of you are kind of saying, your clients need to see you're not scared, you're not concerned. It's all okay. It's all good. Okay. Hey, Mike, how about you, sir?
Kind of the same thing, but it's, I always ask them if they've ever gone shopping after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. And of course they always do say they have. And I just say, you know, right now, if they're not adding money, they're getting dividends, capital gains, they're buying everything cheap. If they are adding, they're buying everything cheap. If you were going to go buy a new truck for 50–60 grand and the auto dealer says, hey, listen, if you come back tomorrow, we'll give you a 40% discount. That's where we're at right now. And just making them feel good. And then also maybe just showing them that, hey, my money's the same way yours is. I'm in the same boat you are.
Huge, huge. This is what I'm doing with my money. Huge. Nick, wrap us up, bud. You're on mute. I wasn't getting a lot out of the first part, Nick. So, okay.
We met 5 years ago. I set up your accounts. Remember when we talked about when the market's down, it's usually the only place in the world that everybody runs from when it's on sale. So it's on sale now. So now I find out 2 things with all my clients. 1, who is listening, and 2, who's going to stick to it for the next 25 or 30 years while they get wealthy. It's not a 5-year game plan to wealth. It's not a 2-year. It's not a 10-year. It's a forever game plan. I find out who listens and who's staying with me for the next 25, 30 years. And it just reminds them the same thing everybody said. Try to put them in situations where it all makes sense. When you look at a graph, it always comes back. But when your 100 grand turns to 60, it's the same thing, but it's now real money. The rules don't change because it's real money. The history I gave you, or the charts we show you, that's real money. It's somebody else's money. Once it's yours, are you going to stick to the game plan?
Excellent, excellent. Hey, gang, if you were tuned in, you just heard some great nuggets on how to deal with clients when they're nervous and how do you stay upbeat during that time. So I'm out. I turn it over, I think, to Eldon. Eldon, take over, sir.
Yeah, we're going to actually, do you want to pin, let's pin Mark and Scott on the screen. And we're going to run this a little bit different today. I'm going to let them explain it to you. So we'll do it that way. So Mark, you got the floor.
All right. Someone pinning Scott here. Yeah.
Nope, it's all you now. I'm leaving.
Fire away, buddy.
All right, so welcome to our little show here today. Let me start you off by just kind of taking you through who we are. We thought maybe we should have a picture of both of you, both of us, in case you didn't know. I would say I am the better looking one in that picture, but it seems there are no better looking ones in that picture. So we are both of the same belief there.
Yes.
Hey, so my name's Scott Fletcher. You'll meet Mark in a couple minutes. Mark Drake, Senior Vice President up in Michigan. I'm a National Sales Director down in New Jersey. And we want to just do things a little bit different. Yeah, let's start by taking that picture off. So what we're going to do is we've got a part that we're going to do for you, but the whole idea, I think, with today is we'd like to give people as many opportunities as possible to ask questions. In the shows, you're always giving us questions and we can't always get to them and stuff. So we'd like to be able to get to as many of them as we can, but we'll give you some time to do that by Mark and I'll go over a spot. So Mark, what was the one before that actually? Put the one up back up. Yeah. So first thing you need to know is we have to put the disclaimer in. We're neither accountants or attorneys. By the way, we're not a lot of other things too, but as it pertains to the show, we're not those. So you really need to do your own due diligence, because quite frankly, the information you get from us may not be very good. But if it is, you need to do your own due diligence anyway as you go. And, we're just really going to kind of brainstorm with you. But I notice it on the threads a lot that, people are asking you, hey, has anybody done that? You really have to do your own research and form your own opinions about how you feel with things. So with that said, Mark, we don't want to do a market update. Ben does such a good job with it, but Mark is going to do like a little market update for you as we go. So Mark, take it away.
It's definitely not going to be in the spirit of Ben Shepherd, but I think it's important that this is one of those pieces every Thursday that I think can really help people. Bert shares this slide every time he speaks, because our job is to bring the calm to our clients. Our job is to be the optimist. We're optimists naturally. When you understand what we do, you're naturally going to be optimistic because we understand the markets. We understand there's ups and downs. But I think it's important that you have something that you share with clients. I thought the pregame was right on spot. One of the things that I share on the Telegram thread every week is this weekly market update that I get from Franklin Templeton. People have asked me privately, they send me a separate message that says, where do you get that? Well, I get it. It comes to me because my Franklin wholesaler likes me, apparently. No, I'm pretty sure I'm on a mailing list, and they send this out to people. And I like it because I can say to a client that we've gotten off to a great start this year. Now, I actually have a shortcut on my browser for the S&P 500 where I click on it and I can look at that at any given moment. If I'm doing a Zoom, I can look at it. The client doesn't even know I'm looking at it, because I can say to them, hey, the market's up 7%. We had a great start coming off of last year. I say something like that. If you're a client, you're thinking to yourself, well, that's good news. That's good to hear. Because it may not, see, they don't know, they're not paying attention to it. All they saw was their year-end statement, and the S&P was down 19.6 last year, right? So that's what they see, and that's what they see, but they don't see this up 7% or 8%. I've got models in the managed account space that are up double digits already this year. They're handily beating the S&P. So our job is to kind of share that. So I put this out every week on the MPI thread in hopes that maybe it can help somebody to kind of know where you're at and know where we're at. I share things like this with people. Again, these are great. I frankly don't do a lot of Franklin Templeton investments, but I think they got some of the greatest sales material available to us. One of the things that I've been sharing with my clients recently with regard to the market is I'll say to them, because this could be a quick phone conversation that I've had. Clients are calling up and saying, when do I get my 1099, right? And I'm going to tell you how I operate. I tell them, if you haven't received that, I will put one out. I will get one out in the mail to you today, and you should have it in the next couple of days. If you happen to get one from your investment company, it's a duplicate. I do that. I mean, that's just how I've always operated. So I'll tell Sonny, my assistant, she's been my assistant for about 18 years. And I'll say, hey, can you get 1099s out for John Smith or Sally Johnson, or whatever. And so, but it gives me an opportunity to kind of talk to them about the market and about where things are at. And I might ask questions. I think one of the things that I noticed from all of the speakers early on in the pregame is they're asking a lot of questions, right? I heard Tim going through that. He was asking a lot of questions. And that's the key to having a great dialogue with a client, is you asking questions, not just puking on them information, right? So I'll say things like, we've gotten off to a great start this year. I mean, the market's up over 7%. So especially coming off of last year, but I just want to remind you that every year following a midterm election year, for the last 70 years, 100% of the time, the market's been up. Okay. I don't know what the market's going to do this year. I wish I did. Okay. But historically, we're in for a pretty good year. So I'll say things like that when I'm talking to the clients. And I think that's what's really most important, is you being able to have a conversation, to be able to take all this information that you hear every week or on some of these slides, and to be able to share it with a client in a way that, and if these visuals help you, then use them. I think this is one of the best, most telling, is you can look back over the last 30 years of the market. Every single year, the market was down intra-year. But there's really only 3 periods, 5 years, but I call them 3 periods, where the market finished the year down. Those are pretty good odds that you're going to make money long term. And so I think being able to share that kind of information is really good. So that's my market update for the day, Scott. So let's tell everybody what we're going to be doing today and how it's going to be structured.
Quite frankly, I'm still trying to get over the fact that you just did a whole presentation on Franklin and told everybody you don't do much with Franklin.
Hey, that's what I do.
You want to edit that comment at all?
No.
Okay.
I'm perfectly good.
All right. So here's what we're going to do here. What we're going to do is we've got a part that we're going to do for you, but we'd really like to hear what your questions are. What stuff has not been answered over the shows, and please don't limit it to, I have somebody with 2 heads, they're 86 years old. What would you do? Like, just keep it to the content. Okay. Keep it to like what's going on, something that we're going over, maybe that you want cleared up or something like that. We're happy to go over it with you. So we're going to do a little part here. And if you flip the switch there, Mark. So we were thinking about, where to start things. And I think everybody wrestles with, I want to get more clients. I want to get more business. Some of the guys and gals that we have on here have all this business. Where do I get it from? So we just thought, let's kind of go through with you some of the places, the most common places that people find securities clients, find securities business, that kind of stuff. And really the first one, one of the easiest ones is employer plans, right? I mean, how many people do you know who either leave a job or the job leaves them, right? They get let go, they switch jobs. Now, all of a sudden, their plan money becomes available, 401ks, 403bs, 457s, right? So if they're out of job, I mean, that's a hugely common way that we get rollover money to be able to open accounts with and that kind of stuff. And you want to be thinking about and asking people, hey, who do you know just left a job? Or you got to be making notes like, who do I know who's leaving a job? Or who do I know who's going to leave a job? Or, we're supposedly going to have a recession, whether it's soft or hard. Unemployment is supposed to go up, although it doesn't seem to be doing it right now. More people may wind up leaving or losing jobs, and as a result, their plan money will become available. Mark, talk about how popular in-services are.
I've probably done a couple of million in services in the last 6-8 months. When a person turns the age of 60, 59 and a half typically for most 401k plans, they have an opportunity to do what is called an in-service distribution, where they take all of the existing assets that they have in their work-sponsored plan, their 401k, 403b, whatever, and they can take out that money and roll it into an IRA. And so it's important that you share with clients that they can do that. So if you're sitting down with somebody in their late 50s, you need to let them know that that's going to be a possibility and it's something we should talk about. Or if you know somebody is 60 or older and you talk to them about, do you have existing 401k assets? Well, one of the opportunities that you have is that you can do what is called an in-service distribution, which allows you to roll that money over. The reason plans allow you to do that is that so that you can start to prepare a little bit for your retirement, which is probably coming in a few short years. So you don't have to sit and ride the roller coaster of your 401k and however it's set up. It gives you an opportunity to move those out and maybe look at protecting a portion of those assets or investing in such a way to put you in a much better position when you actually pull the trigger. So that's kind of some dialogue that I use when doing this, but I think this is one of the missed opportunities for a lot of people that they should be looking for all the time. So
Yeah, I agree. And listen, for those of you that are out there, they're on the newer side and you're like, okay, why does somebody want to roll over their 401k money or do an in-service, to an IRA? Sometimes your clients ask you, I mean, it should be pretty simple, but on the rare chance it's not. I mean, when people go into a 401k plan at their job, one of the biggest benefits is that the contributions that you make, the employer is going to match. So there is some immediate return that you're going to get every year by being in that plan. So whatever the negatives are being in a 401k plan are usually, set off by the fact there's such a big positive that you're making money right away. But when you leave that job, or in the case of the in-service, that money's just sitting there. All you're getting is the negatives of a 401k without the positive. And the negatives are you don't have anybody helping you with your 401k money. You're limited in the amount of choices, that you're able to invest in. And there's just no reason to have those negatives if you can move to an IRA where you get a lot of positives. So, a lot of people, I'm doing an in-service this week. A lot of in-service money gets done. A lot of rollover money gets done. Mark, talk about IRA transfers.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on that too.
Yeah.
Because again, I don't think this should be talked about enough. One of the things that you got to get good at is kind of telling stories. And one of the things that I'll share with clients with regard to in-service is that ERISA laws don't allow someone like me to give you advice. You'll notice when you started your 401k plan, they gave you a piece of paper and you were supposed to choose. Now, there might have been the guy like me that is actually the one that got the deal closed with your company, but they can't specify legally, they cannot specify which investments that you should be in. They give you model portfolios. Most people pick target date funds. They say, when do you want to retire? And it's just kind of a one size fits all type of scenario. And then people are kind of left, like, what do I do? So you look at your coworker and you say, what are you doing? Well, you're a jerk. I'm going to do the opposite. And this is their whole financial planning with their 401k. And so we have to be able to maybe share that in such a way where people go, yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. Right. And so we can provide you with some much better options. And that's the case. There's usually just a limited, I noticed Fidelity always seems to have the same crappy Fidelity funds in every 401k. There's so many better options outside of the 401k, but you often don't get access to those. So maybe we can look at that. And I think that's my sales approach. I'll go, maybe we can look at that and improve things. If we can, is that something that you'd be open to? And everybody's open to that. So anyway. That's good point. I'll add one thing on that too before we go to IRAs. For those of you that are doing rollovers and stuff with your clients, do yourself a favor. Make sure you make a 3-way call with your client to that place. I mean, I've had scenarios in the past where I've heard, you send the client to go make a phone call
and then the Fidelity rep or the Schwab rep or the whoever rep winds up saving it and moving them into an IRA. You got to make, as Ben has talked about, you got to make that third party call, that three-way call with the client. All you do is you call the place, three-way the client in, you get them on the phone, you say, hey, my name's Scott Fletcher. I'm on the phone with a client of yours. I'm their financial advisor. That client would like to move their 401k over to an IRA. Their name is Jane. She can hear you right now. She'll be happy to verify who she is and give you permission to talk to me. And then when that happens, I take it from there. Who's the check get made out to? Where can we send it? You control that conversation so you don't lose the client, on the 1 yard line with things. Mark, talk about IRA transfers.
That's a great point. Well, in talking about IRA transfers, it's important to understand that there's a distinction between for those of you that are new writers, there's a difference between what a rollover is and what a transfer is. A rollover is coming from employer-sponsored plans. An IRA transfer is an existing IRA, individual retirement account, that you're going to transfer. That word rollover and transfer often gets people confuse those two words. So when you do an IRA transfer, this IRA is sitting at a bank, it's sitting with another brokerage firm, another company, could be an insurance, could be an annuity IRA, right? So this is another opportunity you're going to find when you're looking for assets. When you're sitting down through the discovery process with your client, you're constantly looking for money. And so when these opportunities arise, you make your presentation and you process the transfer. Now, the transfer paperwork that you fill out, each company is a little different, whether you're using retail or managed, or even annuities for that matter. Scott, before I get into the managed, why don't you talk a little bit about the retail transfers and what that looks like, what that process looks like?
So for those of you that are doing that, I think one thing that you got to keep in mind that's really important is before you actually do the paperwork, you've got to call get a statement like Mark I think is going to talk about, but you got to always make sure you get statements. Okay, when you're sitting with somebody and they tell you, I got this and this is how it works, like, yeah. Until you give me a statement, we don't know how it works. Till you actually look at the statement, the clients are wrong many times. But when you get that statement, you've got to make a call to that company and say, hey, I've got some questions for you. So for instance, let's say it's Fidelity for that matter, right? You get a customer service number, whatever, you call the customer service number, you say, they say, hey, what's your account number? I don't have an account number. I'm actually calling from Primerica. I just have a couple quick questions. We have a client that wants to move money from you guys over to us. And the questions that you're going to really ask them are, what's the address for the paperwork to be sent? What address should we send the paperwork to? Is really your first question. Your second question is, the account is about $55,000. Do you guys require a signature guarantee? Many companies require signature guarantee on bigger numbers and not small, and then some require it on small. It's kind of crazy. You got to ask that question. Do you require signature guarantee? Third question you want to ask them is, do you accept a fax copy? So when you send in that paperwork, can PFS Investments or can a Capital Group or can they fax it to you, or do we have to mail it? It happens faster if they fax it, obviously. And if they say, no, we accept a fax copy. Okay, great. What's that fax number? And then lastly, if they said they want a signature guarantee, you've got to ask them, you mentioned that you could fax this, but you also told me that the amount I'm looking at is going to require a signature guarantee. Will you guys accept a fax copy of the signature guarantee? And many places will, but not everybody. And if you don't make that call and find that stuff out, you're going to wind up getting delayed weeks and weeks and having to fix it anyway. So, that's been my experience on what you want to do before you send that paperwork.
Well, and I think you're pointing out a couple of things. One, I want to reemphasize the idea of getting a statement. You have to get a statement, not screenshots, but statements, actual statements. They're just coming off of the end of the year. People have gotten their end of the year statements, or they can go online and they can print out an end of year statement. But with the managed account side, they're going to require a statement, no more than 90 days old. So it's important, whether you're doing a non-qualified, ACAS transfer, or you're doing IRA transfers, you'll just always want to get that statement. And I always ask my clients for statements because I want to put it in their file anyway. I had a client that came in with another account that he wants to keep with another company. And it's a small account. I got all of his money except this $8,000. He wants to keep it. And I said, do you mind if because he showed me a statement, do you mind if I make a quick copy of that for the file? Because I'm going to put that in virtual base shop, put it in his client file, and I can come back to that at any time. So anyway, I think that's kind of important. The other point that I think you're making, Scott, is that this requires a little bit of work on our part. This is not like a one and gun. You just write a sale and send it in, and God bless you. You have to do some preemptive phone calls. If you really want the process to go smooth for the client, you're providing value to them as their advisor. And I think they need to feel like you've got things under control. And I think it's important that you take these steps. I think it's a key thing.
Good
There's
deal.
other great points to make, but I can't remember what they are right now. So
you talked enough anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Why don't you
Next
do this one too? Let me see if I can get you to do the whole presentation.
Company pensions. Okay. So do the disclaimer first, Scott, and I'll talk.
All right. If I only knew what the disclaimer was, I would do that. Yes.
You got to be careful.
With company pensions, listen, you have to, this is a hot spot for Primerica. You'll notice like when you do the applications, there's like this special section just for the pension. So when you're educating somebody, and you have to be careful, you can't make the recommendation to them like, hey, you should move that pension money. You really have to educate them, and they've got to arrive at that decision with you, kind of a thing. But you have to make sure that you really explain to them, like, if they're going to roll the pension over to you, why would that make sense for somebody to do? What are the benefits of it? Because you're going to have a problem down the road if you don't. And for many of you, if you've experienced with a pension, a client gets a payment, maybe it's both spouses, they'll get it over their lifetime, but when that second spouse dies, for the most part, that's it. That benefit's over. So if somebody maybe was willing to be able to accept a little bit less income, possibly each month, with the possibility that there would be money left for their beneficiaries, which there won't be any on a pension, that can be attractive. Some people like, I'd rather control it myself. I'd rather move it to me and have you guys control it. I'd rather have the possibility that I could leave some of that to the kids as compared to none of it, but they've really got to arrive on that, kind of with you on your own at the same time, however you want to say it. So go ahead, Mark.
I think with company pension, you gotta have to understand that most government pensions, like for an example, school pensions in our state, there's no lump sum opportunity. It's, they get the payout. That's it. That's the only option. They can choose single, they can choose joint 50, joint 75, and so on. But most company pensions allow for a lump sum. So they're given. So I tell the clients, for an example, they're going to have several options with your pension. Do you have a company pension? Yeah. At the time you want to begin drawing those benefits, you're going to have a couple options. One, there's going to be single option, which will give you the biggest payout on a monthly basis. Then there's the joint options, joint 50, joint 75, and so on. But they sometimes give you an opportunity to take a lump sum. And in doing that, what you would be then doing is rolling that over into an IRA account. And I tell clients the biggest reason people consider whether that's a good option for them is whether their heirs receive those benefits. With a typical company pension plan, when you die, if you've chosen the joint option, your spouse will receive those benefits. But when she dies, whatever's left in that contract gets kept by the company. By rolling it over into, and I'm going to tell you, one of the things that I do to insulate myself with most company pensions, I will roll over a portion or all of it into one of our annuities and create a personal pension for them. Okay. Because with our personal pension plans, obviously we have single and joint opportunities with those. Companies like AIG, you can switch back and forth, no problem. Equitable also, there's no additional fees for that with Equitable. But when you die, your spouse gets it. When they die, whatever's left in the contract passes to their heirs. That's one of the biggest reasons people would consider moving money out of their pension. Also, in most instances, the payout is equal to or higher than what the company pension that they were offering. again, we'd have to look at that in a case-by-case basis. And I'd be glad to talk with you about that. I mean, that's kind of the conversation that I would have about that, Scott, but I think it's important.
That's good, buddy. That's good. What's the next one? Non-qualified assets. You want to take that?
No,
We'll fight over it.
go
Got
ahead.
it.
Yeah,
All right.
this is, you're going to find, other assets. I think, again, going back to this discovery, if you're doing an F&A or you're gathering information, whether you're doing RF&A or you're using, another plan like Naviplan is offered to those that are 65 licensed, there's a discovery process, an opportunity for you to gather information, and you've got to ask, do you have other investment assets? Do you have other 401k assets? Do you have any old 401ks that you have? I mean, you're asking these questions, and I think it's also important as you're discovering these things to get this question down. It needs to be reflexive with every person, and that is, well, let me ask you a question, Scott. If I can significantly improve what you're currently doing, is that something you'd be open to look at? So that's a very mild question, but it's the if I can, would you? If I can, would you? I think that has, frankly, gotten me more assets than anything in my career. Is just, that's got to become reflexive. When you find out someone's got money, if I can, ... would you? ... So go ahead.
Nice job. I would just tell you on the non-qualified, I mean, I think it pretty much speaks for itself, but you have to make sure if you're recommending that somebody move non-qualified assets over to you, you have to consider what tax consequences, if any, are going to happen from what you're recommending. If somebody's got an account, they got 70 grand or they got whatever, someplace else, they got some stocks, and you're like, hey, let's move that over here. And you want to get your hands on it, so to speak. You got to look at, they're going to get hit with some tax consequences, or they're not, or whatever it is. You got to look at that and say, hey, here's what you got to consider. And if you're at a point where you have no idea how to figure that out, you've got to get to their accountant on that. You've got to say, well, let's look at what's going to happen from this move, because you may need to leave some money out, maybe not take all that money, so that they have money to pay the capital gains tax or the income tax if it hasn't been held long. So you've got to really consider that, or you're going to have one pissed client. I think Eldon used the word whiz, one whizzed client that is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be like, hey, I got 9 grand, I owe my taxes. What happened? You don't want that to take place.
No, and it's really important. So finding out what their basis or cost basis is, and that could be found out by a phone call to their company, to their current provider. But it is important that you have that discussion with people, and let them know that, hey, there might be some capital gains, and again, it's not up to you to figure out. And I think it's important that you understand, as we pointed out on the first disclaimer, we are not accountants, and it's important that you don't try to become this part-time accountant that's offering tax advice. That'll get you in nothing but trouble. So it's important that they have that conversation with the tax preparer or their accountant, that what the tax, but keep in mind, when they do eventually move that money, they'll establish a brand new cost basis, and that growth goes on from there. But anytime you're moving, even internally, one of the resistances that we have within the managed accounts program, and we can move to other companies all day long, but you could be generating a potential tax hit on them by moving around asset managers within the managed accounts program, if it's non-qualified assets. So,
attaboy.
Good.
Attaboy. Next one, and then what's going to happen is we'll go real quick with this. We can get the couple slides we have out to you. I see there's a lot of stuff, but Mark, talk about inheritance real quick, and then we'll just hit 1 or 2 quick things and go to questions.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I want to tell you a quick story that happened to me a month and a half ago. I got a call from a guy that I hadn't spoke with in 27 years. When we moved to our town, we moved into this set of townhouses, and we became friends with this couple. And our kids went to school together. They were the same age. And we had a really good relationship. But as they moved out of the townhouses and we moved out of the townhouses and we kind of went our separate ways, our kids started going to different schools, and we just lost touch. And I got a call out of the blue from this guy. His name is Steve. Steve called the office, left a message with Sonny. She handed me a message. She says, Steve, for protection of his name, I'll tell you his last name, is called and I looked at that. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I called him and I said, what the heck are you doing? I mean, I didn't talk to you in 20. He says, I know. I was going to start off with, I'm just returning your call after 27 years. He says, but the reason I'm calling is my mom passed away. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And he goes, yeah, and we inherited a little bit of money from her. And frankly, I don't know what to do with it. And I thought, I need someone like Mark. 27 years later, I haven't spoke with him. I need someone like Mark to help me with this stuff. And he says, and by the way, I also got some old 401ks. I got an old pension. I don't know what to do with. Can we talk about it? I said, I'd be glad to sit down and talk with you about it and look at the options. And he ended up inheriting 200 grand from his mom, with Edward Jones. And she'd been with Edward Jones in Indiana for a long time. And, but I ended up discovering that he had another $1.5 million of investable assets. And so far I've gotten half of it. It's just all trickling in a little bit at a time here for different reasons. But those opportunities are going to come about. Okay. And it's another reason why you've got to have good follow-up with your existing clients, because you don't know what happens over the course of a year. When you're having those quarterly or annual conversations, one of the key questions you got to ask them is, hey, is there anything significant that's happened to you in the last 12 months? You know? And they will volunteer. Yeah, I actually inherited a little bit of money, or I quit my job and changed jobs. And really, did you have a form? I think you had a 401k with it. Yeah. Whatever. And you can then begin the conversation there. So that comes to mind when I think about inheritance, Scott. What about you?
I think everybody's heard the stories on the wall of wealth and, everything that's going to be coming down, the 68 trillion, the whole, and I mean, that's inheritance. It's already started. People are already getting it. You all know people that have inherited money, not that they're not normally as a result, but that inheritance thing is picking up steam like crazy. So, I mean, I think that speaks for itself. Mark, put the list up for a minute.
Sure.
We'll blow through the last couple. I just want to tell you real quick, one or two things. The sale of a business speaks for itself. Some of you know people that are selling their business. They've gotten older. When they're selling their business, they've got assets now that they want to get an income from. They're not owning the business. They're not taking an income from it. That kind of thing. Sale of real estate. Mark, talk a little bit about selling real estate and how that's an investable asset.
Well, I mean, I had a client a couple of months ago. They downsized their home, and the seller's market. They were able to sell their large property at a pretty good chunk, and they bought a smaller home, and they had an extra $100,000 that they had from that sale. They stuck it in their checking account. And just through our normal conversations and follow-up, I discovered that they had this. And because I'll ask them, how much you carrying in your checking account right now? And they go, actually, we sold our old house, we moved, and we got 100,000. You got 100,000 in your checking? What are you, crazy? Now, I can do that with some of my clients, and they'll go, I know, I knew you were going to ask about it. And I said, well, are you happy with the returns you're getting there? Well, at the time they were like, no. I said, well, let's look at, I've got some opinions about how we can do that. What's the money for long term? Are you planning on using it in the short term? Things like that. But I think that's you're going to find those opportunities that come about with sale of real estate. And I'm going to say one last thing on the sale of business, as you mentioned it, Scott. I think it's important. You have opportunities that could be pretty large when someone's selling a business. You cannot become an accountant. There's some real, talk about the tax issues that could happen with that, Scott, that we just are not professional enough to deal with. I mean, it's not our thing.
Yeah. So if you have somebody that's selling the business, or let's even say real estate, Mark talked about, people who are downsizing, they're selling the big expensive house, getting a cheaper house. Another thing is you got people who are landlords, right? They have a couple multi-family houses, or they got some units they've been renting. And now as they're getting older, they just don't want to deal with it anymore. They don't want to deal with who didn't pay and what maintenance needs to be done, or getting a phone call or whatever. And they decide, hey, I want to cash in. I want to start to do that. You cannot figure out what the cost basis is on their real estate property or on their business. You don't know how the accountants handled that stuff, what's been depreciated. Do not think that you're responsible for those answers as a way for you to provide value. You've got to get involved with the people who do that. Their attorney, their accountant. Your job is to invest the money. Your job is not to figure out what their taxes are on assets that are really big, like that. Mark, what's next is divorce, right? We'll end it on this, and we'll take questions. You want somebody else?
That's actually on the next slide, Scott.
So let's just do divorce, and let's go to questions.
Right. Fire away.
and you all know, I mean, the divorce rate is huge. Obviously, some people even say it's more than 50%. And so what happens with a divorce is you got a set of assets, things like a house, things like 401ks, all that kind of stuff, that now as people get divorced, assets have to be split. Assets have to be liquidated. They have to be moved. The financial advisor that the husband and wife had, somebody doesn't want that financial advisor anymore because now they've split up. They're upset. I mean, divorces can be a great way for you to come across assets. Mark told me just earlier this morning when we were talking, Mark actually encourages a lot of his clients to get divorced because it's such a great prospecting technique for him. I think that's a little aggressive, but it seems to be working for him. And whether you encourage him or not, Lori Rivette, by the way, will love this part of the presentation. I can see that right now. I think you just, you got to be aware of that in the equation. Mark, talk a little bit about that.
Well, the best way to cause a divorce would be step one. No, we're not going to get into that right now. But and it's true. The divorce is a sad thing that happens to people, but it's going to happen. Your clients are going to get divorced. You may get referred to somebody that's going through a divorce, and you're going to be stepping in as their new advisor. But oftentimes our existing clients are going to do that, and so what happens is, let's say they're 45 years old and he's got a 401k, and maybe, well, let's make her have the 401k with all the money. And through the divorce settlement, he is going to inherit a portion or all of that 401k, right? Well, that's where a QDRO, a QDRO, a qualified domestic relations order, which is a part of the divorce settlement, that document will be required for them to roll that 401k over, okay, into that new person's IRA. And so, sadly, it is an opportunity for us. There's tragedies that happen. In fact, I think since we're talking about divorce, we should also talk about death, right, Scott? I mean, these are things that happen, that are going to happen. Your clients are going to die. And when it happens, you can't assume that just because you wrote their life sale that you're going to be their chosen investment advisor. So you have to be there for that widow or widower in that hardest time of their life, and let them know that we're going to help them through the process. And by the way, do you know of any, or do you currently have a relationship with a friend or family who is your investment advisor, or do you have anybody that's helping you with that? I ask that question, and 9 times out of 10 they say no. And I said, well, that's actually what I specialize in, and I'd be glad to help you in every aspect of this along the way. We're going to pray for your family. This is kind of the conversation that you have to have. And although you're helping them in this difficult time, I happen to believe that I will be the best thing that ever happens to any family I sit down with when it comes to their finances. And I happen to believe that. So I don't believe anybody has their best interest more than me. You've got to take that same position, in my opinion. And so if you really believe that, then you got to share that with them and say, I want to help you, and do what's right for them. It's a difficult time in their life, but it becomes an investment opportunity. I have a death claim right now, 49 years old, 7 children. He got COVID 6 months ago. He recovered pretty quickly, but a week later got some kind of infection. He was hospitalized, and 2.5 weeks ago he passed away. Wow. And it's something that I'm helping. I mean, I've cried with the widow. We've had phone conversations. She actually lives in Texas. But it's going to end up being a few $100,000 that we're going to invest for her. And so that becomes an opportunity through a tragedy. So.
Wow. Do me a favor, smile a little bit. You came off that was heavy. You are smiling. Okay, great. That's not what I meant, but that's good enough. All right. One thing on the QDRO, and let's go to questions, Eldon. For those of you that Mark just told you a little bit about it. So understand that in the case of a divorce, if people have qualified assets, right? They have IRAs, they have 401ks. Mark talked about a QDRO. So the QDRO is done by another company. It's not done by you. It's not done by Primerica. Their attorney will send them, their divorce attorney will send it to another company, and that company will create that QDRO, just so we can head off questions I'm sure that are coming with that. The company, you need to have a QDRO in order to be able to split retirement assets. So a 401k can't be split, an IRA can't be split unless there's this quadro. And then the quadro is sent to the company that has the 401k. And basically that company will create an account for the other spouse, even though they don't work at that job. They'll create another account and they'll move that money in, their fair share of that money into that account. And then you can take that money, roll it into the IRA or whatever it is. But the quadro is what allows that account to be split so that there is an account there like to like that you can take. So we got a lot of questions. Mark, you cool with going to questions with the guys and bringing the panel in? And all right, Eldon, jump in, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, do you want a few questions at a time to speed this up a bit, or do you want a few of us added as panelists if we added Kurt in here?
Yeah. Add some people in and fire away whatever questions look good.
Okay, let's do this. I think let's do two questions really quickly here. Number one, if people do an in-service distribution, can they still add to their 401k? Would be the first one. And then another one is people are wondering how do you roll over a IRA to a Roth? So let's answer those two quickly, and then let's let Kurt ask a couple more questions.
I'll start with the first question you had, Eldon. I think it's important when you're explaining the in-service distribution that yes, we're going to take the existing assets, but you're going to continue to invest, get your match. But your 401k account is just going to begin from zero conceptually. It's the existing money that we're going to do some pretty good things with. So yes, the answer is yes, you can continue to do that.
Yeah. And then the other one was if they have an IRA and how do they get it to a Roth?
Yes.
So if you have a traditional IRA, you can't move it directly to a Roth. You've got to move traditional to traditional, then you can convert to a Roth. So it's a two-step process. If you have a Roth IRA somewhere or a Roth 401k for that matter, and you just want to move it to a Roth IRA, it's just paperwork to do. It's like moving traditional Roth to Roth. But sometimes people want to move traditional Roth. You can't do it. It's a two-step process. You move traditional, then you convert it to the Roth.
Kurt, do you got a couple more questions on that that you want to bring up?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions is this, right? Since contributions to Roth can be taken out any time without penalty, shareholders seem like they maybe don't know that. So what is the suggested wording you guys would use to teach your clients they can't do that, but maybe caution them against it?
Michelle, you want to take that?
Sure. And I think too, maybe the other part of the question was it's maybe a client or rep is calling shareholder services and they're not understanding what they're trying to do. So I think it gets a little bit dangerous because we go back to that I'm not a tax professional kind of thing. But if the client is aware that they can take out their contributions, either you can go through their statement with them and calculate all those contributions, or they can call shareholder services and ask, how much have I contributed? And then the client knows that's how much they can withdraw. And then the client puts in the sell order to withdraw up to that amount without triggering a taxable event.
Yeah. And you could tell your clients that, they can take contributions penalty free after 5 years that the account's been existing, even if it had, little money in it, they put big, but it's got to be 5 years before they can do it.
For the growth.
For the contributions. Can't take the growth until 59.5 without a penalty.
It's not true.
Actually, you can let me just, I'm in Michigan, it's different than New Jersey. See, in Michigan, you can always take your contributions into a Roth out with no penalty, no tax. So I think it's important that people know that they can do that. But the reason I wouldn't do that is the goal of your retirement account is to build a retirement account. It's not meant to be your emergency fund. In the event you have an emergency, those assets are available if it's a catastrophic emergency with no tax, no penalty. Okay, but that growth is what would be nailed. Right. If you'd be penalized and taxed.
In addition to that is that if they do a Roth conversion, now there's a 5-year window before you can take that principal in a Roth conversion. But I agree with you, Mark, a contribution is available at any time.
So same in Wisconsin.
Yes, sir.
All
Yeah.
right, good.
Hey, another question that
You
came
always
up.
work differently in Jersey.
Yeah, well, it's Jersey guys. Yeah. So another question that came up is this, right? Other than munis, what would you recommend for non-qualified money?
Good question. For on the managed account side, we have some really good opportunities. ETF portfolios, for an example, are very tax efficient. Our SMA programs that we have with most of our asset managers are very tax efficient. And so, although they're not tax free, there's tax efficiency there that you'll gain. And the goal of choosing those particular options is, again, all the benefits that come along with having an investment advisor and having a managed accounts program. You can just reiterate those talking points. I got a couple other ideas, but Scott, which
I think you hit it too. I was thinking SMAs also. If it's on the retail side, you're looking for, first of all, I think time frame matters. You know, how long is this client going to not need this money? And then you're looking for funds that do not have a lot of turnover. They're not creating a lot of big capital gains and dividends that you're going to get hit with at the end of the year.
And there's also investments. If an investment doesn't make money, there's no taxes. So if you can get in something that you lose, that's great too. Another option could be non-qualified annuities, right? I mean, so if you're dealing with larger clients, that you can take a chunk and open a non-qualified annuity. This is one of the original reasons that non-qualified annuities exist, is so that you can put that money in and it grows tax deferred, much like a retirement account does. So, and you know, I've done that in a few cases where I've stripped down the annuity, no riders, nothing, just in, you know, some of them have open architecture opportunities, or they have really robust investment options. So you can put together a little portfolio and have those assets growing tax deferred. Just understand that there's, on the back end of that, there could be some tax consequences and at the point of liquidations, last in, first out, things like that. But that's a pretty good question. Kurt, do you got anything to add to help Scott and I out in that? Do you think would be, or even
No,
Michelle?
I mean, I think you guys are good. That really depends upon the number one question I would ask is, what is the objective of the money? I think somebody mentioned that. Without knowing the objective, I don't know what to put them in either. You know, objective will give you direction, you know, bonds, longer term, annuities, what have you.
Yeah. Point. And
Hey,
by the way,
Michelle, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
by the way, I know one of the questions we got immediately with our little intro, when I mentioned Franklin Templeton having good sales material, Franklin Templeton has some really good investment options. Okay. And so it's not that, see, one of the things that I am not, in the olden days, I picked, in the retail side, I picked, you know, one or two mutual fund companies, but pretty much one that I spent a lot of time getting to know, and I understand the investment choices. And that comes along with retail. In the managed account space, I'm going to tell you, we've got an incredible lineup of asset managers, and I've got assets with every one of them for different reasons. And Franklin Templeton is one of those. And so, I wasn't disparaging the fact that those investment opportunities exist, because they do. They have really good options. It's just that there's some others too. So
now you can keep using the stuff.
Yeah, a thing that we want to do with those, no matter what family you choose to use, the encouragement would be to stay in that same family for your clientele. So if you move money around, there's no fees, commissions, charges. So it's a moral, ethical recommendation to change a fund. It's not a commission-driven move. So whatever family you choose to pick, you know, keep the client in that family.
The retail side, absolutely.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Thank you. Thank you for the correction. You're correct. Yeah, you're correct.
Beautiful.
Michelle, do you have some questions you want to ask?
I was just thinking of maybe a broad suggestion that can answer a lot of questions. So we all have access to the Census consulting line, and it's, you know, specific for retirement account questions. So I think when people have questions about what part can I withdraw and not be taxed, or what can I do with a rollover or Roth or traditional, even small business retirement plans, if you yourself can't call the Census consulting line, have your RVP do it for you and get those questions answered by those professionals.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Here's the number.
Oh, 1-888-917-7199. I use it regularly. I think more people should. Maybe they don't aren't aware of it, but absolutely.
Absolutely. It's on speed dial with me. It's like the bat phone. I mean, again, you can't think, you got to remember all this. In fact, when you get to Scott's age, you forget a lot, right? So you've got to remember, you have these awesome tools and these awesome, resources at your disposal. God bless you. Don't pretend that you're an expert in everything. Your client's not looking for that. They're looking for honesty and integrity, and they're looking for, if you don't know the answer to something, say, I'm going to find that out, whatever. I mean, that is a great point, Michelle. And they answer retirement questions. They're not going to answer all your tax questions and investment options and things like that. They'll answer your generic retirement questions. Good.
We
Other
get a
questions?
bunch of 1099 questions in here, and what can we do as far as sending them out? How do we get them to people? Where do we find them? Do you guys want to answer some of those questions?
Go ahead, Mark. You started.
Yeah. First of all, you can email 1099s if you email them through your Primerica email, and they have to be emailed secure. Okay. You can also mail them. I know one of the questions was asked, where do you find, they couldn't find it in Shareholder Account Manager. It's actually under statements. And then underneath statements is tax forms. And then you can see what tax forms, if there are any for this past year or not. Just letting you know, on the retail side, they're not going to be fully released until after the 15th of this month for retail. I think all of the managed account 1099s have been issued. IRA 1099s have been issued for retail, but the non-qualifieds are not until February 15th, as I understand it. So I don't know if that answers that question.
Perfect.
Be good.
Michelle, is there any more questions that is general that you see on there? Kurt?
Yeah, I'm just giving a quick scan right now. Oh, here's one. Here's one for you. In what situation should you use a simple rather than a SEP for a business owner?
Scott, take it away.
For simple is really going to be for more employees. I mean, if you've got, 5, 6, 7, even 3 or 4, a lot of the people aren't going to want to put away in a SEP. They want to be able to put away a lot of money for the owner, but it also requires that you're putting away a pretty decent amount of money on the employees too. If they're a family or something, that might not be a big deal. But when you start adding up employees, the simple is going to really be more the way to go. I think the SEP is used more often for, people that have no employees, or they've got one, or they've got, it would be along the lines of, a solo 401k. They're different, but I think once you get into a business, it's got, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, they're going more towards a simple. I think the limit on the simple is 100. At least it is in New Jersey. Is that the same in the other states?
Yes, it is. I think the same in Michigan.
Woo! Thank God.
That was one of the other points we had made on the second slide, is business retirement plans. Another place we find money is we talk to business owners, and we talk to them about whether they have a plan for their employees. A lot of small businesses don't. We can offer opportunities for them. July Services on the managed account side, they're phenomenal at setting up startup 401ks. Our other vendors don't really like to do startups. They want to take over millions of dollars, but July Services are great at startups. But you can also talk to your employers that maybe don't want to get on the hook for those contributions. Maybe they're real small and they're struggling. Talk to them about doing a financial wellness for their employees. Because again, Scott, you'd agree that the money isn't in the actual acquiring the 401k, but it's in those dealing with those individual participants and doing an F&A for them and all the other things that come along with it. And so that's why financial wellness programs work out well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, for those of you that, you're setting up, maybe you're thinking like, I want to set 401k plans, but I mean, the money honestly is really not big in the 401k as much as it is getting to the relationship with the individual people in that company, being able to service them individually. Somebody leaves, there's rollovers. I mean, it's really, it's more on the individual side. I just noticed a question on there about in combating IUL and cash value insurance, how do you overcome the objection of Roth IRA contribution limits? I'll take it, Mark, and then you jump in, or any of you guys jump in. First of all, I think what we all have to understand is these people that are buying IUL and all this crap about infinite banking, all this bullshit, pardon my French, most of these people are not maxing out their IRAs, husband and wife. You know, now it's 6,500. Did I get that right? In New Jersey, 6,500, right? So you got $13,000 a year, $1,100 a month that a husband and wife can do and to max out their IRA before they would even think of something else. And a lot of people are buying these IUL policies and they haven't even done other things like maxing out. So many times the limit is not a big deal because they haven't even done that before they bought this policy. So that would be my say. Mark,
That's
Kurt,
it. In fact, I want to first say that I think in French it's bullshit, but we have to ask our Canadian friends.
Yes.
But I think you nailed it. I think the reality, people aren't putting that much money away. You know, and we're not talking, the people that are buying IUL are people that are these buggers that sell these plans to families. You know, John Lavin was, I think it was John, was sharing the other day an example of one of these programs, and it was $500 a month this family was committed to. He was able to get them into a term policy like $30 a month. But the majority of that money, I mean, of course you can max out Roth IRAs, right? But even not putting it in a Roth, even putting it in something else is better than putting it into a universal life policy. Don't let them kid you. This is math we're dealing with. This is, you know, one of the things I've loved about this, Scott, my entire career is I know I'm right. I'm right 100% of the time. This is what I love about our business, guys. There's a lot of you that are new. You're always waiting for that other shoe to drop. What didn't they tell me? What didn't I learn? And I'm telling you right now, you know everything you need to know that buy term invest the difference is the best way for people to accumulate savings and protect their family. And I think the changes that the company's made recently with the next gen product is off the chains. But regardless of some of the processing problems. By the way, speak to processing issues, Scott, that people are going to encounter along the way. Is that a normal thing, or is it just the person dealing with the problem?
Nice. That was a nice handoff right there. Good. Very nice. Yeah, the processing issues. Yes, exactly. So I think what we all have to keep in mind is that, you know, we're here. A lot of you that are on here today, you know, you haven't been at 5 other financial companies. You've just been here at Primerica, probably a lot of us. So when things happen that are frustrating here, you know, like, why does this happen? Why does that happen? I say the same thing. We all say the same things. We really don't know. Like it happens everywhere. I don't know if it happens more at Primerica or less at Primerica, but it doesn't mean you're not frustrated. But it happens everywhere with things. And the good thing about Primerica, I think, is, you know, they're always willing to look the other way on stuff. In that, if there's a mistake that happens, you know, people are apologetic. They're trying to fix things. They're trying to make things work. We're all trying to get better. We've got some great people in the home office now working on the IT issues that have gone on. I mean, I think it's just a good place to be, man. It really is.
I agree with you. And I know we're out of time, and I know there's 100 other questions that people have thrown our way, but guys, we can't, no group of people can teach you the business in an hour. The way you learn this business is by getting across the kitchen table or conference table or a Zoom meeting, and you deal with whatever you deal with. You know, it's the only way you're going to learn this business. You don't learn this in a classroom. Art Williams used to say, you know, an hour in the field is worth, 50 in the class. And so realize that that's how the business works. It's a need to know. As you need it, you figure it out and you know it, you learn it, that's not you. Don't feel inadequate. You've got a lot of support, a lot of people. These Telegram threads are wonderful for that. Even if people have some uplines that aren't maybe engaged in the same type of business you want to run, you're now a part of a community that can help you in so many different ways. And that's my last thing that I'll say on that, Scott. So
same here. Back to Eldon.
Oh man,
wait, I got one.
The comment.
Hold on,
I
got one closing slide. I apologize.
Mark's had the show the whole day, and he has something else.
No, I got to close the show with a proper. We're out. Mic is dropped. So
The mic did drop. You know, you guys, the format is what I think a lot of people have been missing, and a lot of questions answered, and the responses in here. I did screenshot the Q&A stuff. I know, guys, we were trying to get through a bunch of these questions, and I think maybe some of these things we can capture into a format, put it onto Telegram. And I know that Mark's going to throw that a census number up on Telegram for you. And so everything we do on here, we generally get it onto Telegram. Fantastic. I just can't say enough. This is a show that everybody should see every single week. So thank you very much, guys, for doing this kind of a format. And it should be done once a month. That's just my recommendation. Coming Tuesday, more incredible training right into the CRM side of things. Everything we do is client relationships. You heard about it here today. And so what I want to do, Aristida, is I want to bring you in. I want you to talk a little bit about what's coming on this Tuesday on the LFIC side of things. And we'll wrap it up from there.
First of all, guys, mind blown. What content. I am, Mark, your conviction is like beyond, I just speechless. So we are so grateful for all of you. Michelle, thank you too. Eldon, thank you. Listen, guys, this coming Tuesday at the LFIC, we have a group of people that is going to be talking to you on the tools they are using in the field. So very practical. It's going to be one of those ones that you want to probably watch on replay like 15 times. It's going to be very practical on all the tools that they use in the field to be able to set appointments, go on appointments, and then actually go into Turbo apps and make some closes. So we're going to be focusing on that this coming Tuesday. Looking forward to see you there at the LFIC on Tuesday. Thanks, guys. Scott, man, thank you. What a day. What a week.
Thank you.
Signing off.